Hello and welcome to Courageous Conversations.
We're here to talk honestly about race, faith, and what it really means to love our neighbor at all costs.
Each and every episode, we are going to sit down with friends and leaders from across Kansas City to share stories. We're going to ask hard questions and we'll laugh a little bit along the way.
To unite people, unite neighborhoods, and eventually unite KC. Let's jump into today's conversation.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. You have reached another podcast of Courageous Conversations, and we're so glad to have you here. One of the things that Gary and I are most excited for with this podcast is that we actually are bringing to light conversations that you may not get a chance to hear. And we talk about them all the time. And then after we're done, we're like, man, I wish the whole community could have heard that. So you're in for another exciting episode. Gary's going to do our opening, and he's going to introduce you to our exciting new guest today.
Yes. Well, we're so excited to have Porsche Seals with us today. And we'll be talking more about the many things that you do in the city. But before we go there, I just want to say to the people who are tuning in that we are trying to provoke conversations that you could have on your own. So if you would take this podcast and listen to it or share it, you can like and subscribe. You're going to find it on Apple, on our website, Unite KC, on YouTube, Google Play. And
Spotify even.
Spotify. And so, the idea is we want to dive into things that you might not talk about otherwise. You'll hear them, and then you will talk about them. That's our hope anyway. So Porsche Seals is with us today, and we were talking before, Porsche, about the many different things you do. You may be best known in the city as the director of Caring for Kids. But I'd love for you to start by telling a little bit about your family, not just what you do. Like, who is Porsche Seals behind this leader that many people might know? Who are you and your home and family? Start there and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I'm a fun-loving gal.
Yes, you are.
So I am a Kansas City native. Have been living here my whole life. I just love Kansas City. I'm a God-fearing, family-loving mama. My husband and I have been married now for 22 years. Shout out to Steve.
Awesome. Congrats.
22 years of marital bliss. And we have 4 amazing children, 3 daughters and a son. And right now we're in the throes of that. All 3 girls are in different stages of college, and our son is in high school.
Yeah.
So, new stage, I'd rather be potty training. If I can be honest, I'd rather be potty training.
Yes.
Navigating adult parenthood is new, treacherous waters.
It's tricky.
Yeah, it's very tricky. Lines are very thin and narrow and
Blurred.
Yes. But, since I'm not potty training,
you can always, we can bring that back. You and Stephen. Yeah.
Okay. We'll just keep, we'll keep at it. God's been good. He's been gracious to us. They're beautiful kids. And so we're grateful. Right now, all the girls are, 21, 20, nearing 19, and Stevie's 14.
Yeah.
So, the
finish line.
Yeah. So we know what it's like to have a whole bunch of kids under the age of...
I got to meet all of them at once.
Yes.
At the Juneteenth celebration.
Yeah.
I was going in as you guys were coming out in the family van.
Yeah, family van. And we actually have 2. So, anybody doesn't know, we have 2 of them because they have friends.
Oh,
Yes.
my gosh.
We have 2. Stephen and I are on staff at our church, River's Edge, where my dad's the pastor. I lead worship, and my husband's the youth pastor, and all the other things that, we get into. We just hang out in the city and do what God tells us to do.
And serve at Unite KC.
Yeah,
Thank
serve
you.
at Unite KC. I've been
So
a part
thankful.
of volunteer staff for,
Absolutely.
I don't know,
since
Not
the
too
beginning.
far since the
Yeah.
beginning. So been around a long time.
And what I keep telling you and others who volunteer, if you just hang on a little longer, we're going to pay you. We're going to pay you. And more than
Gary's cracking up.
High aspirations over
Gary
here.
is cracking up. Jesus paid it all. I'm just
Hey.
gonna take that
Hey.
money right now because I'm not gonna hold my
don't
breath.
hold, don't, hey,
Not gonna hold my breath. I ain't want to pass out.
there's a line in a baseball movie and it goes, it could happen.
I believe it. Listen, I believe it.
Ray
And I'm-
Devils
I'm-
as a comedian.
I will receive checks when they are stroke. I will take one.
Man.
But until then,
Until that day,
I will just keep on
my eyes
volunteering.
behold the
Thank
city.
you.
It's okay.
Until that day.
It's okay.
Well, Gary, I'm going to let you start off with the questioning, just talking with Porsche because she truly is a gift to our city.
Absolutely.
And she is involved with 20 more things that she has not mentioned. And so to me, how she does it is, she walks by faith and not by sight, but
Yeah.
I'll let you go.
Well, I think it's fun to dive into what are your motivations? Like what I know what you do. A lot of people know what you do, especially through caring for kids, because it's very visible. It's making a big difference in our city. But if I started there, that would be one thing. I'd love to start, back a little bit further. What's the motivation that got you into pursuing this kind of a career? Because you could have done a variety of things.
My motivation is Jesus, because I did not ask for this.
I remember. I remember that.
If anybody's ever heard my story, I was going to open a bakery. And, God called me out of that. And by way of my husband, just kind of helped me to see that God was calling me into advocacy.
Yeah.
And on behalf of children and their families. And I didn't really know that term at the time. Not saying that it wasn't in my vocabulary, but it wasn't how I would define my work or myself. I just felt like I don't like it when people don't treat people right. And I'm going to speak up. I'm going to say something. And I was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years. And I found out that 5 people were possibly making all the decisions for the entire school, including me. And I don't like people making decisions for me without me being a part of the decision making.
Right.
And I was actually on bed rest with my youngest for 5 months. And I was still finding ways to be a part of PTA. And as soon as I could get him in that carrier and in that car seat and I could get up to the school, I just started bringing him with me.
Yeah.
And, asking more questions and trying to figure out why do we have meetings at 9:00 in the morning? So we're not giving an opportunity for our families to be a part of the conversation. We're shutting off some of those things just by way of time, by way of, calendar that are, stopping some of our parents from serving.
Right.
And then, painting it with a broad stroke of they don't have time.
Right.
They're not interested. They work 2 jobs, they're single mothers, all these kind of things. And if I'm just honest, we're having courageous conversation.
Right.
I feel like most of those things were being said about Black and brown parents.
Yes. Yes.
And I was not only offended, but I felt like it's not true.
Right.
And so, I just started to work at building trust and relationships. And somehow I became the president of the whole PTA. And,
It usually
Not
works out.
surprising.
yeah. And, but, with trust came their willingness to have PTA meetings at 6:00. And if somebody needs to bring their kid, we're going to be in the library and we're going to have snacks and we're going to, and so, you guys, one time I had somebody pull up to my house to get their yearbook. Ain't that something?
Wow.
They just really thought I was for the
Yeah.
community at
You
that
were,
point.
you were
Right.
I
really.
wasn't. I was like, why are you at my house? But anyway, so I just knew that, I wanted to help parents who maybe were like me or who are my age
Yeah.
or who are of my demographic to understand like there's a space for you, there's a
Right.
place for you. We need your voice matters.
It's beautiful.
And then somehow I got on a tangent trying to understand how we had watchdogs at our school, you know, where dads
Yeah.
get to come in
Right.
and they, you know, they walk around, they get to, you know, do that whole thing and make sure kids are being safe and then tell about their, you know, tell about
Right.
their jobs. But we had some dads that were very honest that said, you know, my past life doesn't allow me to be able to
Yeah.
walk through the building by myself.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so we started to dig really deep into like, well, what can they do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do we still get that little girl who feels really proud or that little boy who feels really proud to drag their dad down the hallway? How do we do it? So it's, you know, high-fiving kids before and after school where there's other adults around so you're
Right.
not alone,
Right.
or coming at lunchtime when you're not alone, or, you know, coming when the doors are closed and digging
Right.
in the dirt, making sure that the landscape looks nice for your
Yeah.
kid's school. So we just started to figure out, like, how do we create space and community for people who want to do it, but it doesn't just fit the cookie cutter way
Right.
of doing
Right.
it. And I didn't know that was advocacy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I just felt like, why wouldn't we want to figure out how to make sure everybody can be involved, regardless of their situation, regardless of what they've come through. They're not who they used to be.
Right.
And dispel some myths along the way. Why not?
Yeah.
You know, Portia, you mentioned something that is very dear to the heart of Unite KC, and that is, you know, giving people a second chance. And on the Kansas side, we work with the district attorney's office in Wyandotte County to do an expungement fair. And so those people, if they've kept their nose clean for a while,
Yeah.
they can get another chance. And over on the Missouri side, it's been like breaking rocks to try to get that same program implemented.
Well, we just got to keep working at it. I'm a Missouri girl, so, you know, show me. No, just joking. But I think it's all things we just have to keep working at.
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
right. You're right.
They're doing it. Maybe it just doesn't look the same way. We all know that the rules are different. Every state is different. Everything you have to navigate through. You know, we have some great leaders, you know, on the Kansas City, Missouri side. And I think they are trying to find new ways to get people back on track, give people, like you said, that second chance and help them to have a different pathway than maybe what they were shown before. So I think it's just the story we all go through. You know,
I think it's harder in Kansas City
Yeah.
because we have two states.
Yeah, it is.
And so we have different municipality, different governments, different state governments, you
Yep.
know. And I know you work on both sides of the line. So
Yeah.
you know a lot more about that than we do. But I would be interested in, so what led from being an advocate in your local neighborhood to saying, I want to serve with Caring for Kids, and then eventually you transitioned to be the leader of Caring for Kids. Tell us about that part of the journey, because I think it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I keep saying it's Jesus, but it really is, because I wasn't looking for it.
Like, see, those are the best stories.
I wasn't
Yeah.
looking for it at all. I don't even know, if I can be quite honest, I don't even know that I was interested in that. You know, I had just finished like a 56-page paper on like how I'm going to open a bakery and what kind of, you know, chairs I'm going to have, and, you know, what kind of, you know, display cases I'll use. And I finished that paper with saying it's feasible but will not happen.
Yeah.
And that was a crushing moment. You know, we talk about, you know, the crushing and the pressing.
Right.
And that was a crushing moment, because I'm like, well, God, then what am I supposed to be doing? And initially when my husband and I were having that conversation, it was like, I really think God, you know, really has something more for you to do with families and children. I'm like, well, okay, then where? And so at that time, the superintendent of Raytown Schools, I called him. Dr. Markley was, is a friend, and I said, "Do you got somewhere for me to work?" And he's like, well, wish you would have called a month ago. I would have gave you a job. And I'm like, well, okay. He's like, I just hired somebody for that. And I said, well, what do you think? I don't know. I said, well, what about caring for kids? He's like, that's actually a great idea. He's like, you should reach out to him.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, okay. So one of our team members who's still on staff, Terry, I just called her. I'm like, hey, Terry, I really love what you guys do, and I feel like this is what God is calling me to. And it's a feeling I've never felt before, which is why I think it's only God, because I feel very settled in being unsettled.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty confident that he's going to help me to figure this out. And she's like, well, okay. And so she gets me in contact with Nancy Mitchell, who was executive director at the time, and we have a conversation over the phone, and then we meet at Panera, which, you know, I know people say the best deals happen on the golf course, but I would venture to say the best deals happen in Panera. So, you know, I mean, some really good things happen in Panera. And so, you know, we talked and we had a conversation, and she's like, we've been praying for somebody for a couple of years to come in because the person we have right now wants to go part-time. And we'd love to have you, but we don't have the funds to pay you. And I said, well, I'd be willing to volunteer. And of course, my husband was like, you need a job. Love my husband. He wasn't pressing too hard, but I was finishing college. So, you know, a college student should, you know, leave college with a job. But anyway, so, you know, we just kept praying. We just kept praying, and by the time I actually graduated, God had opened up some funds for me to be part-time to serve Kansas City Public Schools. It was about 12 or 13 schools at the time, and so I was able to graduate with a job like I was, you know, 21. I was not, but I, you know, felt good about that, and, you know, I started in June of 2017.
Yeah.
And just, you know, a whirlwind of, you know, emotions and feeling proud, feeling, you know, really green, you know, completely out of body experience, but also felt really at home.
Yeah.
So
I remember those days. You guys had a very dynamic team. I mean, you do now.
Yes.
But yeah, that was a team of winners. You guys are like an all-star team.
Yeah.
Talk about the time that from there till now, just in terms of numbers, because I think the doors God has opened, it's really phenomenal. I mean, sure, it's miraculous what God has done in the numbers of schools with the climate that we have politically and in our educational climate and culturally and everything else. For that to happen really took the hand of God.
Yeah. So, you know, of course, 2017, you know, things were really, really great going and getting started with KCPS. And then that same school year, 3 weeks into my job, I was sitting right next to the superintendent for Grandview, and I didn't know. And just like I'm sitting next to Ray, and I just started talking about my brand new job and pouring it over real good. And he's like, tell me more. And I'm like, actually, I have to pass you off because I've only been here for 3 weeks and I don't know. And I made enough of an impression that the following school year we added Grandview, which we had not added before. And I was the executive, I was a partnership director for the entire Grandview school district. And then the following school year, they asked me to be the director for Raytown, which we already were in, but we're making some shifts, and so Raytown needs to be covered. So I was serving 35 different principals, helping them to get school partnerships, and then Nancy felt a call to retire, and I was finishing a 40-day fast. And God made it crystal clear to me that it was my job. And I was like, I don't know how to raise money from nothing but trash bags and cookie dough.
That's it.
From PTA.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord, I don't, you know, and he laid it on me that, you know, I can learn, but the things that can't be replicated is my passion.
Right.
And And so, during COVID, I had my interview, and, that was the, why should we hire you? I said, well, all the things I don't know, I can learn.
Right.
But what I have in my heart, you cannot replicate.
Yeah.
Oh, that
You
is so
cannot
good.
replicate.
It's good.
And when I was hired, we had 84 schools, and we now have 114 schools in our network. We have over 450 community partners serving schools, and I'm really, really proud to say that over 170 of those are churches. So God's been super generous to us and sustained us through, some really rough times.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who, wasn't under a rock knows that education really suffered during COVID.
Boy.
And we had a really huge regression of partners during that time. We had people that had, their churches closed, right? So your church closes, there's no school partner there, or your business, plummets, or, you only have one or two people in your office. And so now, you're not able to serve. And our sweet spot is really serving those smaller businesses, smaller churches to come in and be able to work collaboratively with others. And so when a church takes a huge hit because they had a bunch of elders and people died, that takes the wind out of your sails. And as a result, you just say, I can't help anymore.
Man.
So trying to convince people to stay, trying to convince schools not to close their doors, to do drive-throughs, to do drive-ups and drop-offs, and you're spraying everything down with Lysol, and it's just what a time to be alive. And so I was, my dad's a retired firefighter, and if I ever had a moment where I felt like I might understand a little bit of what he did for 20 some odd years, that would have been the moment where I just really felt like they put the gear on me and they just sent me in, and I'm like, okay, and and so us, recovering and coming back really strong has just been amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Porsche, if anybody has been around for a Ray and Porsche conversation, or whenever you're,
they're scary.
They're very. Well, I'm trying to tell you, so they're going to get a taste right now, because how it works, Gary, is I'll say something and then Porsche will go like this. Like, you have poked the bear again, and I'm going to be honest in everything. Yeah. So this is me doing it again. Right. But Porsche, you have seen so much, and when you bear the mantle of a person who is an advocate for other people, I want you to talk to us and talk to our listening audience about the differences you see in Black and brown communities and white communities, because sometimes people, they just don't know. It's not that they are, they just don't believe that there is anything. But if you never heard the story, if you've never seen inside of the looking glass, then you may think, well, I mean, everybody has a equal chance at success. And so
I don't take credit for this analogy. Definitely saw it on the internet. Can't remember her name, but it's like someone getting 400 times around Monopoly board before you get to come on the board.
Oh, man.
And so if you can imagine that all the stuff's been brought up, all the things have been purchased, all the cars, all the land, all the houses, and the railroads, and then, or like, congratulations, welcome to the game.
Right.
However, you're really behind. And
that's a great analogy.
And I don't think that people remember that. I think we like to believe we're super far removed from things that we're not far removed from. When you're doing your history and you do realize, that you're only 4 generations removed from slavery. You're only 4 generations removed from sharecropping. you know, it galvanizes your willingness to say, this is not okay. For me, you know, it pushes me to, you know, dig my heels in a little bit in moments where blanket statements like they just don't care. Blanket statements like, well, you know, they just don't have any dads, and you just don't want to learn. When, as we were talking about before we came on live, is that it's so complex.
Yeah.
It is.
It's super complex. It's super complex when your grandparents were told. My grandparent was told, you can't live past a certain street.
Right. Yeah.
And so you're trying to figure out, like, well, why do you only want to go to Piggly Wiggly? Well, guess what?
Yeah.
That's the only safe grocery store. You know, when my husband's grandmother ran out of Raytown, which is where I live right now, by the KKK. Just 10 kids.
Yeah.
And they try to burn your house down. So when someone tells me, why do you live there? Are you scared? Are you okay? I have to know that's not coming from a place of hearsay. That's coming from real experiences.
Right.
And when your schools are shut down, and you know your neighborhoods are disinvested, and you know the misappropriation of funds,
Right.
and all of these inequitable acts just happen over and over and over again. Even on your best day, you're swimming upstream.
Right.
And so I think oftentimes people don't get that part of it. And so it causes some to be jaded and to say like, oh, that's over, and that's gone. You know, my mother, like you guys, based off of the numbers,
Yes.
my mother was alive when Martin Luther King was killed. Okay.
Yep.
That would mean that many others were alive when Martin Luther King was killed. And it had a deep impact on her life
Absolutely.
and so many others.
Right.
And so we have to know that all of our grandparents weren't sitting around knitting. Somebody was holding those signs. Somebody was keeping
Right.
people that look like me from going into those schools.
Yeah.
And they might still be alive. And so, you know, it's not that far removed, you know, and people like to try to smooth it over. But we got to be truthful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
do. Yeah. I think it's so often the thing that I hear from the white community is, well, times have changed. You know, it's better now. We have more equality in the chances we have, which there's some truth in those, but behind it, I think there's a feeling from many. I feel it myself at times, like I just don't know what to do. Like I'm sad it's the way it is. I don't know how to make it better. I don't feel like I contributed to a lot of it, but I know I contribute in my ignorance. So since I don't know what to do with this big, mess of tangled thread or yarn, it's easier to act like it didn't exist. And so I think that's how people deal with it a lot, which is very sad. I guess that leads to a question that I mentioned to you in a text. Like, what do we do? Like, here's where we are. What are some of the things that we can do, whether we're black, white, brown, whatever we are, in the situation where we're living in? What are some of the things we can do to advocacy was big for you. So what can we do?
I think you got options. Number one, I think we all have to know that we have options. I think the more I live in this space of advocacy, which it ebbs and flows of what that looks like, the more impressed I am with how people utilize what they have in their hands. If literacy is important to you, being a part of advocating for students who need help with literacy. If medicine, the amount of racist undercurrents of the medical world that live with us each and every day. I myself, I've been misdiagnosed before. I've been sent home right the way I came, you know, and told that I couldn't have been in that much pain, and, you know, that I didn't need the medicines that I needed. And, you know, those kinds of things have a lot to do with maybe discoloration and the way you were trained. And so it's so many different ways, like whatever space that you really care about, you have an opportunity to say, okay, how can I be useful in that area, whether it's sports, you know, whether it's the arts. And I think so many times people think it's for someone else to do, instead of just sitting and saying, okay, if it's just one person, it doesn't have to be this global idea of like, I've got to start a nonprofit. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Let me tell you.
Let me tell you. And if you live in Kansas City, there are thousands of nonprofits.
We don't need any more.
Just go join one, right? Don't start a new one. But oftentimes people think they've got to start something new. When most of the time, just starting where you are. Whether it's housing, I mean, the complexities of housing from redlining and even if you care about banking, if you care about loans, if you know, all of these places have opportunities for advocacy where you can say that is actually not the right way we should go. Yeah.
But we do have to speak up. That's part of the reason we do this podcast.
Yeah.
We really trying to help people to find their voice. Wherever you are in the culture. And we talk a lot about listening, not assuming, asking questions, being willing to change your view, being willing to meet someone halfway, walk across a bridge, you know, all those kinds of things. It requires that kind of effort. It's a very intentional effort.
Yeah. And not trying to be funny, Google it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, you know, if you're like, is that really? I mean,
it's amazing.
There are lots of tools, lots of books.
There are.
You know, I love this shameless plug. You know, hopefully you guys can get paid for it. But I love the Dividing Lines tour. Particularly if you're a person that lives in Kansas City, you do it in your car with that app, and you go and you sit in that parking lot and you drive through Kansas City, and to see the deeply rooted, planned divisiveness of our city, it's eye-opening.
It is.
You know, Portia, you took the my last thought that I wanted you to comment on out of my head, and it is a critical, important part of the Dividing Lines tour. And when Gary and I took it together,
we did. In Ray's truck.
In my truck, you know. Now we got lost a little bit, you know, for the first little bit, but so we're driving through, and there's one point on the Dividing Lines tour, and we can talk about that resource is something that we'll do several times next year. We'll do it in March. Is they talk about the enormous amount of money that was invested in the Kansas City school district, more than any other school district. I didn't know that story. Yeah, in America. I mean, millions and millions of dollars. And the idea was to pour so much money into the Kansas City, Missouri school district that it would attract white families back to the city, and so that they would put their kids back in the schools. And they weren't having it. And it just didn't work. And I would like for you in our closing moments here to comment on how you feel like that whole big experiment has shaped, and since you're one of the mavens of education here, you undoubtedly have a take.
He's spoken again.
You have a take on how that's affected where we are today with education in Kansas City, Missouri.
I am learning more what I don't know. The older I get, the less I know. And so I don't even know how deeply it has impacted us. I know my own story.
Yeah, you were a product of...
I loved my performing arts magnet school. Okay, I'm an 80s baby. And in the 90s, I was in the magnet schools in Wendell Phillips, and we had partnerships with, the Lyric Opera, and I opened for Sesame Street Live, and we put on performances, and we had dance, and we had theater, and we had choir, and I mean, it was a great time. But then when I took this position, and a principal took me on a tour of a school, and we opened the door, and all the violins were just stacked up.
Oh.
All the cellos.
Wow.
It just broke my heart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just broke my heart for every student that didn't get my opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
that didn't get to glean from essentially the experiment.
Right. Right.
Because sometimes we don't like to call it that because we really hope that it's going to work. But sometimes these things are failed experiments.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even go as far as to say that they thought it was going to work well, right? Nobody, shifts, one school to be a zoo magnet and,
Right.
opens an Olympic-sized pool and, makes computer science for nothing.
Right.
You're trying really hard to close the gap, right? And so even in the fallout, I do take the moment to call out that I believe the people that tried that, it was their solution of how do we close the gap.
Mm-hmm.
The people that we want to be here, they're not here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How do we close the gap for the kids that are here?
Right.
And I think for the kids that were a part of it, I think we got a great experience. It wasn't something we could keep up.
Yeah.
Right.
And so now, the school district is working really hard to create something that it can keep up. I think Dr. Collier is doing a great job.
Yeah.
I think she's trying really hard. I think, she has a amazing staff. I absolutely cherish Dr. Davis. He's been a huge advocate of caring for kids. He's a deputy superintendent. They've got some great, assistant superintendents. And I just think that for anybody listening to me, if you're not pleased, you have to get involved.
Man, that's so good.
Yeah.
I will never speak ill of what they're trying without a solution. And so for me, the solution for caring for kids, it's not everybody's solution. It's not the solution. We believe it's a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
To get involved, to mobilize your organization, your church, the people, the people inside, right? The people inside the church, the people inside your business. If you're an individual, mentor, volunteer. I mentor every week. And that's how you change the narrative. That's how you leave a lasting impression, even if it's just with one, is to do something to get off your blessed assurance. And to do something besides gripe and complain and wag your fingers and, talk about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And so I know, our time here is drawing near. But if nobody hears me say anything else, the way that you change the narrative is to be a part of change, is to do something about it. And we have some beautiful children in Kansas and Missouri, from Shawnee Mission, to the Northland. We have beautiful children, and we do them a disservice if we don't, save some Chipotle money sometimes and, spend time with our kids, and invest in our future. And so that's my hope, is that people would be frustrated enough to do like I did, to say, I'm not going to let anybody speak on my behalf. I'm not going to let anybody, make those decisions without me, and to get involved.
So before we let you go, I know you said
Go ahead.
I know you said we're wrapping up, but we're going to work together on the Unchained
Yes.
this coming year, 2026. And there are some people listening who may not know anything about, you mentioned mentoring a couple of times, but I think it's one of the easier on-ramps, and you and others have kind of paved the way. And so can you take a few minutes and just talk about the importance of reading on grade level by third grade and what a difference that can make, and then paint a picture for a person who, if they had an hour or two to give a week, and they would, what could they do?
Yeah, so when we talk about mentoring, there's more than one reason to mentor. So some people mentor for social and emotional support. So, we've got some kids who, if they just had a safe person to talk to sometimes, their behavior would, be a little bit better. We've got students who need a mentor because they're chronically absent. Most of the time, they've got some stuff going on that is really out of their control.
Yeah.
But there's data to show that students do come the day that they're going to see their mentor. So that's one more day that they could be in their chairs. And then you do have our literacy partners, and so that entails reading alongside a student,
Right.
Listening to them, helping them navigate, also possibly being a person who might be able to tell the teacher, like, hey, they're turning their letters backwards, or because they might have some things going on that are even out of a volunteer's hands, whether it's dyslexia or some things like that are they're a little bit more complex and they need more assistance with. But the truth of the matter is that students who are not reading on grade level by third grade, there is a horrible formula that says that they are on their way to prison. It's called the school to prison pipeline, and it basically suggests that students that don't read on grade level, that they're going to be violent, that they're going to end up in prison or dead, or they're just going to be a menace to society. And so we want to be a part of changing that, and getting people to get in on reading with our littles is good. But the more we learn, there's big ones that have gotten pushed along.
Sometimes
and they're
it's the
struggling.
parents. Sometimes it's the parents.
And sometimes it's parents. Sometimes it's parents that didn't, they didn't really learn how to read, or maybe they just got enough for them, and so it's kind of difficult for them to teach their children how to read. So I think at any of those levels, people can get involved. If you really are passionate about young people, you don't really like to wipe snot, and you don't like you don't like jelly from peanut butter and all that, you could request, like, I really would like to hang out with a middle schooler.
Right.
I like to hang out with a high schooler, because if that kid is if they're struggling with reading, it affects everything. And so we want them to graduate with, not just saying like with honors, but we want them to graduate feeling that they can, do it on some kind of level. They can't get a livable wage without knowing how to read. And even if they just want to go, work at the grocery store, they cannot do that without being able to read that application. And so it just creates too many barriers. And so wherever people want to get involved, there's room.
Yeah. The converse of the prison pipeline is, if you can read on grade level by 3, it's a key indicator that you could graduate. Which is huge. And groups like Lead to Read in the city have almost like a plug and play. I mean, there's steps you have to go through, of course. But the inroads that they've already created in the schools, they can get you involved if you want to get involved.
Absolutely.
Which I think is people don't know where to start is part of the problem. You could go to your local school.
There you go.
Which, because you probably know the people, or you should, and they need to know you. That would be a place to start too.
Yeah, and any community that you live in, going on your school district's website, looking up like volunteer, and then they'll get you trained. They'll make sure that how to help your kid, and they will also help you to see indicators of if they are if they have suicide ideation
Right.
or are interested in harming themselves or someone else, which is a part of it. You know, a lot of times we're skipping over the fact that a lot of our young people, they want to excel in school. They want to succeed. They've got a lot of adult things that are in the way. And this is not a black problem. This is not a brown problem. It's not a white problem. It's a kid problem.
Right.
It's across the board.
It is.
Our kids are being put into some situations that go far beyond them and that they shouldn't be in. And they're seeing a lot. And, you know, us being able to, you know, be a caring adult is really important.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we are at time. So
Well, Gary,
Porsche,
why don't you wrap
thank
us up? And
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I'll come back. Let me
Well,
know.
Yeah.
I always enjoy our own conversations.
Yeah.
It's fun to be able to share them now with the public.
Yeah.
But so if you're joining today, Courageous Conversations, we're here to prompt more conversations like the one you just heard. Porsche, thank you for being our guest.
Thank you.
And we do encourage you again to like, share, subscribe, and then take what has happened here into your own life and share it with others. So thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Courageous Conversations.
We hope you heard something that encourages you to start these conversations in your own life.
Because when we talk, listen, and learn together, we move closer to uniting people, uniting neighborhoods, and uniting KC.
And don't forget, you can find more stories, events, and resources at unitekc.org.
So until next time, go love your neighbors at all costs.